watching the world's most intense job interview. It's Dana White's Contender Series.
Future stars are vying for that UFC contract. They have a chance, literally, to change their lives forever.
After the long hours in the gym. After the years of grueling training.
What determination they have.
After a lifetime pursuing hopes and dreams. There comes the moment where a contender can make dreams come true. 100 fighters.
Welcome to the Contender Series. These fighters know what gets them to the big show.
10 nights.
One shot and it is over. Wow.
Oh, he's out.
That's it. Action-packed.
One shot to impress the boss and earn a UFC contract. This is Dana White's Contender Series.
All right, it is a scorching hot Tuesday night in Las Vegas. If you're a fight fan, you know what that means. You got to get inside the wonderfully air-conditioned UFC Apex here, the brand new multi-million-dollar facility for Dana White's Contender Series. Dan, Tom, John Morgan here. Dan, it's been, after a slow start, it's been a pretty crazy season so far, right? 2 weeks ago, we gave out 5 contracts. Last week, I think we would have given out 5 contracts if we hadn't had a weight miss. We gave out 4. You've been grading the talent each week, as you do on MMA Junkie. Talk to me about just kind of the level of fighters that you think we've seen so far this season.
You know, the level of fighters are interesting because, you know, as we saw, I believe we, reported MMA Junkie earlier, another fighter that didn't necessarily got a contract from a previous season, Hannah Goldie, got signed. So even the ones that maybe aren't quite, knocking out of the park. Again, it's a performance-based show. It's not judging them as a fighter in their whole. This isn't condemning a fighter or anything like that. But even the fighters that, let's just say, don't get a contract are still pretty live, and I think that kind of speaks to the talent that they're looking for.
Yeah, no question about it. It's been fun. Dana White's Contender Series, I think, it's been a breath of fresh air. Everybody's loved it, and this season has been, like I said, a little slow start to start out with, but since then it's really picked up. Again, it's on ESPN Plus if you're in the United States. That'll be at the top of the hour, 5 p.m. local here Pacific. If you're international, you can check it on UFC Fight Pass. And I'm telling you what, I think this week we might see quite a few contenders again make their way into the UFC. We've got a combined record of these fighters, 72 wins and 11 losses. That is an 87% winning percentage. I like the crop that's here. What do you think about the fighters that we're looking at? We're going to go through them fight by fight in just a minute, but as a whole, am I wrong in saying that this looks like another exciting bunch of contenders?
You know, the winning percentage is spot on, John, because it is. The experience level, we look at the organizations they're fighting from, and, the gyms is always kind of a dead giveaway too, and we'll talk about that as that comes up. But like you said, if we look at the level of competition, the winning percentages, and some of them it's not necessarily, we've seen the repeat Dana White Contender Series, people with, experience, but I'm sure as we'll talk about in the first matchup, there's some people that even have a little bit of tough experience. So the experience kind of really wide-ranging, and I like this crop this week too. Yeah, definitely.
Dig it. All right, let's just jump into it. As you said, alluding to there, starts out in the featherweight division. Kamuela Kirk versus Billy Quarantillo. I want to say it the Spanish way. It gets me every time. Billy Quarantillo. Kamuela Kirk, 25 years old, originally from Hawaii. He now trains in Arizona. 5 foot tall, got a 75-inch reach there. Meanwhile, the man that you mentioned, Billy Quarantillo, 30 years old, from Buffalo, New York, originally now lives and trains in Florida. But he was on The Ultimate Fighter 22. He was a cast member of Team Faber. And the UFC has actually given us a little bit of footage to set up this matchup. So, like I said, starting out in the featherweight division. So here's a little bit previewing this matchup.
A member of Team USA on Season 22 of The Ultimate Fighter, Billy Quarantillo came close to a call from the UFC in 2015. But tonight, he wants to seal the deal by turning back the Jawaiian Kamuela Kirk.
My name is Kamuela, the Jawaiian Kirk. I fight out of Siege MMA in Peoria, Arizona. My goal is simple, and that is to be the greatest of all time. I fight because I've always had a competitive drive to be the best at something ever. And I feel that this is the best thing that I excel at in my life is MMA. It's something where I can channel that competitive drive. It's something that I've always been able to excel at in my entire life. It's really something that I see where I can provide not only a better life for myself, but really change the lives of my entire family as well. My fighting style is entertaining. It's devastating. I'm always looking for the finish, whether it's trying to knock you out, whether it's to submit you. A lot of people say, they can pick their poison. We can either stand or we can go to the ground. I like to say that I'm going to pick your poison, because if I choose to keep it on the feet, we're going to keep it on the feet. If I want to take it to the ground, we'll take it to the ground. If I want to submit you, I'm going to submit you. I'm gonna look back on in 10, 15 years, even long after I retire, and I'm gonna look back and I'm gonna go, that was the moment everything changed for my life. That was the beginning of the next chapter.
My name is Billy Quarantello. I train out of Grace Tampa South, and my goal tonight is to get that contract. I got on The Ultimate Fighter in 2015 when I was 26. And, I fought to get on the show, and I won that fight by knockout.
Fight back, Red! That's it.
And then, obviously, the loss in that second round was devastating. But it kind of put me on the path that I'm at now where, I knew I had to do more to get to where I'm at. And, I basically saw that level that you got to get to this level. The loss on The Ultimate Fighter was probably the most motivational thing that's happened to me. Losing that fight and being 2 fights short of being in the UFC and being a household name, it's motivated me since that fight happened 4 years ago. It's a really good comeback story. A lot of people counted me out after The Ultimate Fighter. I was able to beat a lot of people, come back from 2 really serious surgeries. I broke my hand in one fight, and then I tore my ACL in another training session, and I think a lot of people would have quit after that. I've been through a lot to get here. I know what I'm capable of. At this point, just knowing what I can do motivates me more than anything to chase that dream still.
I look at my opponent, and I don't see Billy. I don't see a specific person. I see an obstacle. This isn't anything personal. It's just business. I have nothing against Billy as a human, but I plan on going out there and destroying him. It's either him or me. It's kill or be killed, and I plan on going out there and killing on July 2nd.
My whole career is on the line tonight, in this fight. It's taken me 4 years to get back to this point, and I don't want to wait another 4 years to get another opportunity. Tonight's my night, and there's no one that's going to stop me from taking this opportunity.
All right, so it's Kirk and Quarantillo kicking off the evening for us. Kirk, again, training jiu-jitsu since he was 4 years old. A lifelong martial artist. Quarantillo made it close, got to the Ultimate Fighter, came up short there, said he was going to make his way back. Now he's here. Dan Tom, as you were kind of looking at this fight, give me your thoughts on the matchup.
Right now, depending on what house you're looking at, you see Kirk is about a 2-3 to 1 favorite. I don't disagree with him being the favorite, John. I think it could be a little closer. Again, looking at the format, Quarantillo is a fighter that actually stands out more. He's got really nice boxing, a really nice counter right hand. Coming forward as well, he attaches it with a left hook, something to look out for in this matchup. But the thing is on the ground is why I think the line is so wide. Quarantillo is a really good grappler, but he gives a lot to get a lot, and he doesn't necessarily prioritize the position before the submission, despite his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rank. So against a guy like you said, has been the Jamaican Hawaiian, has been grappling since he was 4.
Love that nickname. Love that nickname.
Yeah. He's going to earn some points with that for me. But no, honestly though, I don't know if you want to be making that mistake. Especially he's really strong in the clinch. The Hawaiian is so watch for the action to get tangled up there.
Yeah, no question about it. Kirk 9-2 professional record, all 9 wins by stoppage. He just had 6 submissions along the way. Meanwhile, Quarantillo is 11-2. 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. So both have the ability to finish the fight. And I know Dana White says he's not just looking for finishers, he's looking for killers, but those finishes help. We did have a little clip of Sean Shelby talking about Kirk as well. So here's what UFC matchmaker Sean Shelby had to say about Camuelo.
Kirk is a fighter that does everything well. I think he's extra dangerous in the clinch. He's really good with the knees. He's really good with the tie clinch and can beat you either way. He can beat you by sub or knockout.
Well, when we're talking contenders, we're always talking to our man Nolan King as well. He's on vacation this week. He's all the way over in Ireland, but he still didn't let us down. He still sent us some notes. So here's what Nolan King had to say about this. He said, look, I love that this fight kicks off the evening. In my opinion, Quarantillo has the better resume on paper, while Kirk is still an improving fight finisher of a prospect. It's tough to predict, but I'm leaning with the upset in Quarantillo. I know it's not always accurate, but in close toss-up fights, I think having fought tougher competition goes a long way. So he's picking the upset. Dan Tom, you got to lean here one way or the other?
Yeah, like I said, with the odds, I don't disagree with the odds, but even though I'm picking different than Nolan, I think we both agree that this could be a lot tighter than it should. We see a lot of upsets on that do happen on this series, so it wouldn't be out of the ballpark for that to come to fruition tonight.
No question. All right, a fun way to start it out. Then after that, we move on to the light heavyweight division. I think the light heavyweights, we know that the heavyweight division has a leg up, right? I mean, first of all, it is that small cage. It's the 20-foot cage instead of the 25, so the bigger bodies kind of end up, with less space to work. We know the heavyweight division is a little bit thin, so I think when guys come in here and they have a decent performance, they get a really good shot of going in. I think that the same could be said for the light heavyweight division as well, right? I mean, it's not that. I mean, it's crazy because when you think about the top of the light heavyweight division, of course, you're talking about the absolute best in the world. John Jones, potentially the best of all time. But you don't have just a ton of contenders. Yes, I guess Chris Weidman we know now is moving. There's fun, but anyway, I think light heavyweights have kind of a little bit easier path to get in. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. And the funny thing is that you kind of turn to that coin. The other side of that coin, John, is I notice with these heavier fighters, and I don't want to say lower level, we'll say more entry level, right? Because this is an entry level show. We'll say more the entry level fighters at these higher weights, like light heavyweight and heavyweight, when they don't get the early finish. Again, like you reminded, like Dana's reminding us, I should say, it's not just finishes, but when they don't get those finishes and these fights go on, they don't tend to look the greatest. So,
fair point.
And I think that might come into play with this fight. But if they do get to their strengths early, one of these two guys could look really good.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, so the matchup we're talking about is Jamal Hill versus Alexander Popik. Jamal Hill, 28 years old. He was born in Chicago. He now lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan. 6'4" tall, so a big body in the light heavyweight division. Meanwhile, Alexander Popik, 27 years old. He's a German fighter, 9-2 career record, 5 of his wins by knockout. And by the way, I should say Jamal Hill undefeated at 5-0. So still pretty early in his career, just 5 wins, but undefeated through those first 5 fights. Two big boys, 6'2" versus 6'4", light heavyweight division. You expect them to have some power. They have had some finishes along the way. Give me your thoughts on this one, Dan Tom.
Yeah, big boys and the experience level, kind of like we alluded to off the top, and you gave the records there. It's hard to predict that experience level, but that's also what makes this show fun and these matchups fun. Popik, the German man, he's got a nice right hand that'll have a little more play. When you're facing the southpaw opposition, that's going to open that lane down the pipe. But like you said, not only is Hill 6'4", but he is a southpaw, and that tends to give you a little bit more extra length. I think that length's going to be a little bit problematic, and I think Hill might be the better athlete down the stretch, so I'm not surprised to see him favored by odds makers right now.
I'm kind of intrigued by this matchup a little bit because, as you said, Jamal Hill might be the better athlete, right? 5-0. He's only been a pro since 2017, so he hasn't been doing it that long, so to get here that quick is interesting. He does have a decision win over Daquan Townsend. You remember Daquan Townsend came in, recent UFC edition. He stepped in on late notice there. He has 2 knockouts to his resume. Both of those happened in the first round, so he does have the ability to get things done quick. But again, still very, very early in developing. Meanwhile, Popik, more experienced, but his record, especially as of late, isn't exactly, I'm kind of curious about the decision to be here. And I don't mean to take away from him, but he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. I mean, it's a nice overall career record, a 9-2 career record. 5 of those wins are by knockout. He did have a win in December at Titan FC 51. Titan FC, a great regional promotion there that's helping develop talent. He did lose to a UFC vet in Rob Wilkinson. And interestingly enough, both of his losses come by rear naked choke. So you wonder if there's something, that we're seeing there that, he needs to be careful. But so it's interesting because I see like a developing prospect that is still really early in his career, and then maybe somebody that's a little more seasoned that hasn't necessarily just executed at the highest level in his last couple outings. So how about yourself, Dan? You got to lean on this one way or the other?
I'm leaning toward the favorite, but I like the points you just made there. It's almost like a bittersweet from an outsider perspective. The good news is I don't think it affects these guys' attitude. They don't care that they're jumping into the deep water, so to speak. They wouldn't be here if they cared. They probably wouldn't be fighters if they cared, let's be honest, John.
True.
But what I would say is for fights like these, because this is the first time we've seen maybe, again, a bit younger, more greener guys brought to the stage, they got to treat it like a bonus round of the video game. Whether you're Sonic or Mario, grab as many coins, grab as many rings. Maybe you get a contract while you're at it,
right?
But just have fun and show your best out there. And I think these are the two type of fighters in the matchup where we're going to see that.
Yeah, question marks. I'm interested on this. All right, our man Nolan King, he said both of these fighters are undeveloped, but at the heavier weight classes, there's more leeway when it comes to fighter progression, as we talked about. While Popik could pull off the upset, I see Hill utilizing his athleticism to land the bigger shots. If he fights to his full potential, I predict Hill will get it done inside the distance. Fair assessment?
Gotta agree with our man Nolan there.
Nolan does a great job. All right, let's talk about the next one. Lightweight division, Christian Losen versus J.J. Okanovich. Christian Losen, 24 years old, originally from Lodi, California, but now he lives and trains out in Florida. He comes with a 7-1 career record. Interestingly enough, built since 2017, so he's a little bit. I like that. 8 fights in 2 years. I can get down for that. Meanwhile, J.J. Okanovich, 28 years old, San Jose, California, 6-1 career record. He lost his debut in 2015. He hasn't lost since. 4 of his wins along the way by submission. So as you started to scout these guys and prepare for this matchup, what stood out to you, Dan?
Yeah, Christian Losen now in Florida. I mean, Florida is in the lower south of our continent, United States, but it might as well be the Wild West because you have so much talent, so many gyms, and so many. It's really deceptive. I mean, you look at the people he's lost to. They weren't exactly slouches. There's a lot of prospects that you don't, or maybe even do know about. But I like this fight. It's actually the fight I was telling you, John. I'm most excited about. Of course, it's in the division that I love, but more specifically, it's competitive. It's the most competitive betting line on the card. You've got Okanovich coming in as a favorite, getting that AKA rub. I mean, everybody we've been seeing from, Brianna Van Buren, the females, to the males that come from AKA, Darren Wynn. It's no joke, and this is another athlete in Okanovich. Used to play football, wrestled a bit. He's super well-rounded. I can see why people are liking him, but I think the line's a bit off here, and I don't blame people taking a shot on the dog because I got my first underdog pick. I don't want to spoil that for you, but I really like Losen here, man. He's a really long southpaw that, may make Okanovich wish that Luke Rockhold was still training at AKA because this guy moves from the striking to the grappling, John, the ride positions. It's very similar. I'm really impressed with Losen. Yeah,
you touched on it there. 6'2" tall in Losen. I mean, that is massive for a lightweight. 5'11" for Okanovich, so it's not exactly like he's undersized for the division, but that's pretty impressive. 77.5-inch reach for Losen as well. Should say both have some grappling chops as well, right? 7-1 record for Losen, 6 wins by submission, including 5 in the first round. So not only grappling, but able to get it done.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Okanovich 6-1, but 4 of those wins are by submission as well. So both of them know how to get finishes in the grappling game. So we'll see. Sometimes it's like those two grapplers. What do they end up doing? They end up standing and banging, right? Because they expect me to take them down. Hopefully they'll give us a nice jiu-jitsu display. I love it when grappling specialists will actually get down and do it. Let's get what Nolan King's thoughts are, and then we'll find out which way you're leaning. Nolan King does say 2 submission specialists colliding. Losen versus Okanovich could provide for some really fun grappling exchanges. Neither man's resume screams out on paper. This will be the toughest fight either fighter has fought to date. I'm choosing Losen to pick up a submission victory, which works out well for the UFC because I ultimately believe he has the higher potential ceiling of the two. Dan, Tom, talk about his evaluation and kind of which way you're leaning in this one.
I agree. There are others out there that think the sharp money should be going the other way. I disagree. I'm with our man Nolan King, as I kind of overly eagerly gave my pick earlier. I also like Losen. I really like his skill set here, John.
Yeah, I agree. I hope we get to see a grappling fight. I think we probably will see at least something. I mean, everybody likes it. Everybody likes it when 2 people go in there and just stand and trade. But when you got people that have high level grappling, I like to see them display it. All right, featherweight matchup in our co-main event, if you will. I mean, it's kind of just fights, but our co-main event, if you will. Terrence McKinney versus Sean Woodson. Terrence McKinney, 24 years old, born in Chicago. He's now fighting out of Spokane, Washington, the Sick Jitsu squad up there. Sean Woodson, 27 years old, 6'3" tall, by the way, 79-inch reach. I mean, just an absolutely massive featherweight. He is fighting out of St. Louis, Missouri. Terrence McKinney comes with a very impressive 7-1 career record. Meanwhile, Sean Woodson, undefeated at 5-0. So, Dan, Tom, as you were starting to scout this one out, what stood out to you? What should we be looking for in this fight?
We're seeing McKinney as a pretty subsequent favorite, and I don't think it's just because of our man Nolan King's awesome story that he posted on MMA Junkie.
Great story.
Worth going back to read even after this event, by the way.
Definitely.
But Woodson, I think because he's taking this fight on short notice, he's a well-rounded fighter. He's got certain spots to offer, that certain positions where you don't, if I'm McKinney, I don't want him getting on top of me. I don't want him letting me press me in certain spots. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I think the wrestling from McKinney is ultimately what's going to kind of dictate this. And he comes from that Sick Jitsu school, John, where no matter what their build or style, they are scrappers that do well in a small cage. You think of a Sam Cecilia style, slugging style, to a Michael Chiesa grappling style. I mean, that's not a camp you want to face in that small cage.
Yeah, no question. Terrence McKinney, by the way, going a little deeper into his record, as we said, 7-1 career record, 1 by knockout, 6 by submission, so all stoppages, 6 first-round finishes, 3 in under a minute, 1 in just 7 seconds. So, and the lone loss he had was an injury that he suffered during the fight that forced him out of that fight. So, a lot of hype around Terrence McKinney. We had a chance to get a little clip from Michael Chiesa, his teammate, who's obviously going to have nice things to say about him. But let's hear what Chiesa had to say about training alongside McKinney.
Training with Terrence McKinney kind of sucks. He's really good. You know what I mean? The kid's super dynamic. He's really strong. He's good everywhere. I mean, obviously he's got really good wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is great. His stand-up is evolving. And he's just he's religious about this sport.
All right, so glowing praise, as you would expect there from Chiesa. But I think the hype is real. I mean, of course, teammates are going to pump up their people, but I think he's giving you some real insight there. And as I said, a lot of hype around this guy. So, I'm interested in this one too because I do feel like the most expectations are placed on McKinney's shoulders. But anytime you see a guy come in again at 6'3" tall in the featherweight division, that's going to cause problems. I mean, it's just a stylistic matchup. It gives issues. So for your take, Dan Tom, which way are you feeling about this one?
You know, I wasn't at the weigh-ins yesterday. I really wanted to see what Woodson was going to look like because apparently he cuts a lot of weight. Obviously, you look at those stats. He cuts a lot of weight with a full notice. So what that short notice is going to be. But as much as the dogs are live in this series, I really have a hard time going for this one. I'm going to agree with the public here with the favorite in McKinney.
Yeah, all right, let's see the Nolan King thought here. It's not every day you see a 6'3" featherweight with a 79-inch reach. McKinney is most likely going to want to take this fight to the ground, which I believe he'll be successful at doing. However, if the fight doesn't hit the mat, he's going to be in trouble dealing with such an unusual matchup. I'm taking McKinney in a fun back-and-forth affair, so it feels like everybody's kind of on the same path there. Again, not to write off anybody. I mean, Sean Woodson to be here. Anything can happen in that Contenders cage, and we've seen it. We've seen some fun results so far. All right, that takes us to our featured matchup: Ramazan Kurmagomedov versus Jordan Williams. And of course, Jordan Williams has been here before. Very interesting story as well as him out in about ESPN. There was ESPN, right?
Yes.
Mark Raimondi put that together about the guys taking insulin that's intended for animals. Just a bad thing about our healthcare system is what it was.
I've heard dog shampoo is better than human shampoo, but yeah, go on. Yeah,
terrible. All right, so that's worth a read too. Ramazan Kurmagomedov, a 22-year-old fighting out of Dagestan, Russia. So listen, we're going to bring in a special guest here in just a moment. He's standing behind the camera while we get that set up. Thanks for stepping out and giving up your seat, Dan Tom. While we're setting it up, we'll give you a little video package on our headlining fight here at Dana White's Contender Series.
Getting the call to be on the show last year, it was really important to me and exciting to me to let someone with very important eyes on the sport take notice. My name is Jordan Williams. I am 28 years old, and I'm fighting out of Santa Rosa, California.
Ready, let's fight.
The feeling I felt from being on the show last year and what I learned about myself was that I didn't get the contract, but I did get a third-round finish off a 5-day notice, which gave myself confidence that I'm not one that can be underestimated at any given point in time. And I didn't only tell that to other people, but I was finally allowed to tell that to myself. So that inner strength really was given after I got that victory from my performance last year.
Declaring the winner by TKO, Jordan Williams.
Now I'm back with new knowledge and new skills, not only inside the octagon, but how to live my life outside of it and what I need to be fully prepped on every aspect of the game. When I got the call again to be able to prove myself, I was really surprised and really shocked, and that I'm able to show that I've grown as an athlete, as a person mentally, and show myself to Dana White again that I deserve to be in that octagon. Ramazan, when I run that name through my head, no fear comes in my mind. I'm not gonna let my mouth use any words. I'm gonna let my hands do the talking and let my performance persuade him.
UFC now the best organization in this game, in this fighters game, and this is why I want to be champion in the best organization. My name is Ramazan Kurmagomedov. I'm 22 years old. I'm fighting for Margenes team, Dagestan fighters team. My goal be in UFC. I'm born in Dagestan and grew up in Dagestan. When I was 19 years, I come here because Americans have all the opportunities for mixed martial arts. If I'm here, if MMA, I want to be champion. If you come here just for fight, this is not your road. If you come here, you should be champion. I'm 4 years training here in New Jersey. Sometimes I go back to Dagestan, wrestling camp, because Dagestan one of the best wrestling school. I come back here, training my striking with my coach Mark Henry.
Your first two here, right? And then you're gonna be 5th round in here with Timur.
Sometimes I go to sparring with Chris Weidman. I'm training with Corey Anderson. This has helped to me because I feel too much confidence, and if I win this fight, if I show performance, and Dana White give me contract with the UFC, my dream will be start. I don't care about my opponent. I want he come to fight with his best shape, and I think we will show a very good fight. I'm a dangerous fighter because I'm always moving forward, pressure my opponent, and I want to finish this guy. I will get my hand raised because I know I deserve it, and this is my dream. Dana White, don't blink in my fight.
All right, so Dan Tom steps out. Julian Marquez steps in, UFC middleweight, a guy that knows a thing or two about Dana White's Contender Series, made his way into the UFC through this. Before we talk about this featured matchup we just looked at, Julian, just give me an idea. These 10 fighters that are back there in the locker rooms, the very nice locker rooms, by the way, not the crappy ones you had to deal with. What's going through their head right now? I mean, it feels like there's this idea you got to fight a little bit differently, or you got to do something a little extra special. What's going through their head right now?
Right now, what's going through their head is they have an opportunity to change their lives, and they know the platform and what they have to do. Dana said it from season 1, from episode 1 to this series, and it's go out there and go get a finish. It's not we're going to just get the win, because getting the win doesn't help you out. So these guys are sitting there. We have to change our style. We have to go attack what we want, and we have to go grab what we need. And that's what exactly going through their head.
You did exactly that, man. You did it in big fashion. It was impressive when you did it. All right, let's talk about this feature matchup. Ramazan Kurmagomedov. We could just go with Ramazan. I think it's easier there. Against Jordan Williams. We'll just go with Jordan. We'll go first names on this one. All right, Ramazan, latest kid out of Russia, right? Dagestan, to say at least. It seems like there's nothing but killers out there, man. The lives and the hardships that they deal with, and it makes them tough fighters, no question about it. Insanely. 5-0 career record, 1 knockout, 2 submissions. 2 of those were first-round finishes. Meanwhile, Jordan Williams, a guy that's doing this for the second time, right? He was here. He won the fight over Tim Karen. It was actually later overturned for marijuana metabolites, which is just ridiculous that we're even returning. Come on, get rid of that. This is silly. You don't even need to be tested for marijuana. But anyway, that's aside. He's got 4 first-round finishes in his career. He seems to be, a seasoned fighter that's getting better and better, but he's having to do this a second time. So, when you saw this matchup, give me an idea kind of what stood out to you, anything that you're looking at in this fight.
So both these guys come with impressive backgrounds. I mean, you got to look at their training camp. You have Williams or Jordan, who is training out of SoCal at Alliance. He has Dave Terrell in his corner. And then you look at Ramazan, and in his corner, he has Zabit Nurmagomedov. He has Mark Henry, Ricardo Amela. I mean, these guys are well prepared for this matchup. So it's all going to come down to who wants it more, who studied each other, the opponent, better, and what team is going to bring in the actual fighter that needs to be presented here in the octagon.
Talk about being here a second time. Can you imagine going through that? I mean, luckily for you, it was 1 and you were in. Would you think, I mean, if it hadn't worked out for whatever, let's say you just picked up a win and you didn't get the contract, would you have been willing to come back, and would you have approached it any differently? Does it change anything? Does it add nerves? Does it add comfort? What do you think?
I think it's going to add comfort for Williams. You got to sit there. He's been in front of Dana for the first time. He had a great win. Unluckily, it got overturned, but he's been inside this area. He's been actually in the sweatshop because the other place was super hot.
Yes, it was.
You're burning up, and you have all this tension because it's one of the first few seasons that happened. Now, this one, he's coming into AC. He's coming into knowing what it's going to feel like to perform in front of Dana, and that's what he's going with.
I agree. I think this is going to be an interesting fight. Our man Nolan King put it like this. He said, simply put, this is a great fight. Williams is an ever-evolving prospect, and I predict we see a much-improved version since his time on Season 2. However, I think Kurmagomedov is a tough matchup for him. The Russian is technically sound everywhere, and I expect him to be just a bit further along than Williams. There's a good chance he gets it done inside the distance. So I think this is going to be a great matchup. The last 2 weeks have been insane. Julian, what are you going to be doing? I was surprised to see you here last week. You're doing social media. What are you doing behind the scenes?
I'm over here being the social media correspondent on the Snapchat for the UFC. I'm here to hype up the fights and give you a little insight of these fighters, because not a lot of people know the stories if you don't watch social media or if you don't like to read. Let's be honest. I mean, we can go back to McKinney. McKinney's story is probably one of the most craziest things I've ever read, but most people won't do that unless they go in and read that MMA
Junkie story. Yeah. It was a great piece. What well, speaking of that, I mean, is there any one fight out of any of these, or any one fighter that you're most excited or have your eye on?
Man, it's really tough, but actually the main featured bout is going to be Ramazan Kurmagomedov. One of those guys, and Jordan Williams. These guys both have a great matchup. One brings dynamite in both hands. The other one brings fantastic wrestling and diversity when it comes to striking and grappling. So this is going to be an action-packed fight, and they both know what they're going for. They're both trained by high-level fighters in the UFC, as well as coaches that trained UFC athletes. it's going to be an intense fight.
I'm excited about it. Like I said, I felt like we got off to a slow start here in the new UFC Apex, but the last 2 weeks have been insane. I think on paper this one looks like it's going to be insane as well, so it should be a lot of fun again. It's on ESPN Plus at the top of the hour if you're in the United States. If you're outside international, you can see it on UFC Fight Pass. Julian Marquez will be walking around doing Snapchat. We'll have full coverage on MMA Junkie, and then Dan Tom, who you saw earlier, he'll have a piece tomorrow morning grading the winners. So listen, it's the best thing to do on Tuesday night. I'm not going to lie, I'm a Contender Series fan.
Oh, same here. It's the best thing you could possibly do. Go cook you a little steak, go watch the Contenders, and you'll have a beautiful night.
I love it. All right, let's jump inside the UFC Apex. We'll see you at the top of the hour.
I fight for my mom, my girlfriend, my family, and everybody who supports me and believes in me. I fight because fighting is the first thing I ever fell in love with.
This would mean the world to me because I'm trying to make a difference for my family and everyone around me. Dana, be ready for the takeover. I'm gonna let my hands do the talking and let my performance persuade.
I will get my hand raised because I know I deserve it and this is my dream. Dana White, don't blink in my fight.
You are watching the world's most intense job interview. It's Dana White's Contender Series.
Future stars are vying for that UFC contract. They have a chance, literally, to change their lives forever.
After the long hours in the gym, after the years of grueling training,
What determination they have.
after a lifetime pursuing hopes and dreams, there comes the moment where a contender can make dreams come true. 100 fighters.
Welcome to the Contender Series. These fighters know what gets them to the big show.
10 nights.
One shot and it is over. Wow.
Oh, he's out.
That's it. Action-packed.
One shot to impress the boss and earn a UFC contract. This is Dana White's Contender Series.